Yeah, irony is real simple. It's just take the opposite of your literal meaning and that becomes a joke. So if your literal meaning, go back to my stupid example, I hate soup, it's I love soup. Like, so then that would turn into an article about how soup is so awesome. Like soup is the greatest food ever, and here's why. Just like that's your joke, and you run with it and you buy into it, you play it straight, and that's how irony works.
Buy into it and play it straight are two keys you hit on. Let's look at
Very
this.
important.
Let's look at this article here. Alcoholic father disappointed in pothead son.
Okay. So yeah, people who know irony know that that is ironic because they are the same. They both are addicted to something, but the father is ironically disappointed in his son. The way character works is really simple. You just have to come up with a made-up character that's not yourself, that is either an established character archetype who people have historically loved, and there are many. So you invent a character, and then you tell your joke through that character. And when you establish that character's traits, which you do when you make them an archetype, or if they're not an archetype, if they just give them a couple of traits, then when you show them acting on those traits, that's funny. People like seeing a character act the way they're supposed to.
Philandering string theorist can explain everything.
Yeah.
So good.
So what the character is a philandering string theorist. So we know he has two traits. He's a string theorist and he is a philanderer. So what does the joke do? It shows him acting on both of those traits at the same time.
This is holy shit. Man walks on the fucking moon. Holy living shit. This is a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. And yeah, so shock is the judicious use of sex or swearing or violence or anything shocking in mixed company. Almost always gets a laugh. And it's a little bit of a cheap laugh. It's a little bit of an easy laugh, especially with the demographic of young boys. They really enjoy that particular funny filter. So the kind of watchword of shock is to use it in moderation.
NRA calls for teachers to keep loaded gun pointed at class for entire school day.
Yeah, so that's an interesting example because I don't think it's a great hyperbole joke, because the best hyperbole jokes exaggerate to the point of impossibility. They defy the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Like, go back to Rodney Dangerfield. He said, my doctor tested my urine, it had an olive in it. So impossible. And that's what makes it funny.
Frito-Asia cuts off diplomatic relations with Snackistan.
So wordplay gives people a lot of trouble because they think, well, isn't that just puns? And like they have a hard time working it into their bits. And it doesn't seem very sophisticated because puns typically those are like bad jokes from elephant joke books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are ways to do it, and there are ways to do it well.
Tip of area man's tongue refuses to relinquish Richard Crenya's name.
Yeah, that a reference is a little observation. You know, Jerry Seinfeld built his entire stand-up career on this. George Carlin to a great extent as well, especially early, of just these little moments in life that the comedian recognizes and communicates to the audience. And the audience is like, oh, I've experienced that little thing. They love that reference and it makes them connect with the comedian. And so sometimes all you have to do is point it out. You just point out the little thing that you've noticed that no one else has noticed. That's all it takes.
This one's kind of fun, guys. We're going to get into Madcap. So I'm share.
It's one of my favorites.
So and I love this headline. Secretary of Agriculture attends diplomatic meeting with foreign cabbage. And there's a picture of the cabbage.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Being wacky and physical and silly and funny faces and silly props, silly pratfalls, things like that. Most American comedy is very restrained. And I don't know why that is, because for me, madcap is often the garnish that really makes a joke a laugher.
World death rate holding steady at 100%.
Yeah.
I took some liberty because everything The Onion does is parody. So
Yeah.
I picked one of my favorite Onion articles.
Well, you did a good job, because there's a parody within a parody in this article, and that's a parody of a survey or a statistical graph, where all the bars say 100%. But yeah, every story in The Onion is a parody of a newspaper article, and people have problems with that. They have an issue with, well, it's a format, but it's also a funny filter. Like The Onion, every story in The Onion is a parody of a newspaper article, but you can also parody things within articles.
Al Gore places infant son in rocket to escape dying planet.
That is one of my favorite Onion stories ever. I didn't come up with it, and I wasn't there when they printed it. I literally saw it on the street in a newspaper box, and I was so delighted, because I think it's a perfect analogy. Like, it's such a beautiful analogy that really matches up. So Al Gore is being analogized with Jor-El of the Superman story. And there are so many parallels, and that's what makes analogy work so well. When you find these two disparate things that you normally don't think of as being related, and you find all these connection points. And every different connection point you can find is a joke beat.
Secondhand smoke linked to secondhand coolness.
Yeah, so the misplaced focus there is that secondhand smoke is dangerous, and we're ignoring that and focusing on something unimportant instead. So that's how misplaced focus works. You think of something that's really important that people should really care about, and you make them think of that thing by focusing on the wrong thing.
I just discovered this hilarious comic strip called Garfield.
Yeah, so metahumor is a lot of fun. It's when you make fun of other humor, or you make fun of the idea of humor. You deconstruct humor in a very humorless way. Steve Martin was kind of the king of metahumor. He would make fun of his whole act by calling it hilarious comedy jokes,